All right. So you go to your doctor, your cholesterol is going up, A1c levels creeping up, and your meno belly, it just won't go away no matter what diets you try. And now you feel exhausted first thing in the morning. Then you go to your doctor and he kind of just like shrugs it off. And it's like, hey, it's just age. It's just menopause. This is completely normal. And honestly, part of you just accepts it because our mom kind of looked like this, our aunties look like this, and you've watched what happened your whole life and thought, okay, maybe this is just how life's supposed to be. I'm supposed to gain all this weight. I need you to hear this from me, okay? Your story does not end here. I'm Dr. Dex Diu, former UFC physical therapist. I've worked with over 1,300 clients, and a lot of them are brilliant, hardworking Asian women in their 40s, just like my mom who sat in the exact same office chair, heard the exact same things, and came completely defeated. My mom convinced herself that her body just gave up on her. Well, it has not, and yours hasn't either. So let's get into this, okay? All right, so I'm gonna geek out for a bit, but Stanford actually tracked 130,000 molecules inside the human body. And what they actually found is right around the age of 44 years old, everything shifts at once. That means your muscle, your blood sugar, cholesterol, like all of this, okay? It's kind of like your body got a software update, but no one sent you the notification. Now, for Asian women specifically, there's something that happens underneath all of this that a lot of doctors genuinely just don't know about. Researchers call this TOFI, like coffee, but toffee, like thin on the outside, fat on the inside. Your BMI looks pretty normal. Your doctor sends you home pretty happy. But what actually happens is your fat quietly builds up around your liver, your pancreas, your heart, in places no mirror or skill will ever find. And that's actually what's behind those numbers of yours. And once you understand what is truly going on, it stops feeling like this mystery your body's keeping from you. And it starts feeling very fixable. You feel a lot more certainty. Point number one is you need to understand that your cholesterol is not a cholesterol problem. So if your LDLs came back high, your doctor said, cut out the rice, cut out the fat, maybe try some statins, come back in 6 months, you're probably thinking you just need to eat better. Well, to be honest, that's not the whole story. Here's what's actually happening after 30. You lose about 3 to 5% of your muscle mass every single year. It doesn't really sound like all that much, right? But by the time you're in your mid 40s, this quietly adds up to a meaningful chunk of the engine that was supposed to be burning everything you ate. I think about it like this. You know how like our moms, your grandma maybe, they would make like a massive pot of rice and every single night there's like the same amount. You're feeding the whole family. But what if one day half the family stopped showing up? You got the same rice, but there's way less people to finish it. So what happens? Kind of just sits there, put in the fridge. And that's basically what happens inside your body. Glucose comes in from your food, has less muscle to burn it off. So it gets converted into something called visceral fat. Not the fat that you can actually grab onto, but the fat that quietly wraps itself around your liver, your pancreas, your organs, deep inside. It's invisible. And as that fat accumulates around your liver specifically, the liver starts to pump out more of these LDL cholesterols. So that's actually why your numbers are climbing. It's not because you're, suddenly eating poorly or badly, but because the engine itself has been shrinking for years and years. But no one really told you about this. Now, here's the part that makes things a little bit more interesting. So we had a client, right? And her name is Jenny. She's 44 years old. And like a lot of Asian people, she's an accountant because our parents want us to be accountants, right? And she came to us after her annual checkup and she was super confused. Basically, she'd been eating clean forever, like salad, no red meat, cutting out cheese, no rice. And her doctor was super convinced it's all about her saturated fat, but her LDL was still going up year after year. So when we actually looked at what we call the DEXA scan, this is like the gold standard body composition scan that tells you exactly what's your fat and muscle mass. We found that she lost nearly 6 pounds of pure muscle over the last 3 years, but she had no idea. She looked exactly the same. She looked a little bit more flabby and she weighed pretty similarly, but on the inside, the engine itself got significantly smaller. All that clean eating wasn't really the problem, but it also wasn't the solution either. The muscle loss was driving everything. So once we stopped chasing the cholesterol, started building back what we've actually lost, after about 3 months of lifting pretty progressively, eating enough protein, her LDL levels dropped 22 points without really changing a single food. And her doctors were literally like, how did this even happen? So here's what you need to know right now. First thing is you need to actually get some sort of metric. You need to understand what's happening with your body. We like to use DEXA scans because it's the most accurate. They cost around like $50 to $100. But what actually happens here is you give yourself a baseline, like what your body composition actually is, how much muscle mass you have, how much fat you have, where the fat is actually sitting, what's your visceral fat amount. This data tells you what is actually going on without any sort of guesswork. It's not based off your weight or your BMI. So this is actually like representative of what's happening within your body internally. And then from here, second thing is you can actually start to track your protein intake. I mean, like actually do this, like get a food scale and it's kind of annoying at first, but when you start to weigh your foods over a week, just start to log this, like just keep everything the same. What you're going to actually notice is you're going to have an understanding of how much protein you're actually eating. Because here's what's actually happening every single time we work with someone new. They come back and they're like, Dex, my food is actually super clean. Yeah, I'm like, yeah, I know, like a bowl of pho, you got some rice, you got some vegetables, all that stuff's not the problem. But look at your protein number. And almost every single time, they're like 40, 50, 60 grams short of what they actually need every single day. And that gap is exactly why the muscle isn't actually coming back. Most of you guys do not need to eat less. You've been under eating your whole life. What you actually need is you need to literally eat more, specifically more protein. So what you can actually start to do is a simple formula as your starting point is aim for around 1 gram of protein per pound of your goal body weight per day. So if you want to be 140 pounds, you want 140 grams of protein per day. That one shift alone will start the process of igniting your body to become a fat burning machine. The third thing is you need to add resistance training. 3 times a week, 45 minutes, squats, deadlift, rows, presses. Keep it simple. You don't need to become a powerlifter. You just need to give your muscle a stimulus so that it can start to develop. Point number 2 is your A1c is not watch and wait. Like you don't want to wait for your A1c to just get back into borderline levels. If your A1c comes back at 5.6, 5.8, that's borderline. So watch the sugar, come back in a year, and what's going to happen is you're 1 point away from a chronic disease diagnosis. And if the plan is basically just wait, here's what's going to actually happen. Asian women actually develop type 2 diabetes at a much lower body weight and a lower A1c level compared to Western women. The biological threshold is quite different. So when your doctor says come back in a year, they're working from a rule book that genuinely wasn't actually written for your body. That year is not neutral. That year, things are quietly getting worse. And we had a client, for instance, her name is Michelle, and she's 47 years old. She's a law firm partner. She's born in Hong Kong. She comes to Vancouver, where I'm from. And basically, she was running like 4 times a week, eating super clean, doing everything right. And she wasn't getting results. So she basically looked at us and was like, Dex, I honestly just think that my body's broken. And honestly, I get why she feels that way. She was doing everything right on paper, but it just wasn't the right thing for her. One of the things that we explained was your body's kind of like a sponge. So every time you eat, that sponge soaks up all the sugar floating around in your blood and clears it out. So when your muscle is actually healthy, it does this very efficiently. But the thing is, Michelle has been slowly losing muscle mass for years because of all the running and restrictive dieting. So her sponge was shrinking. Therefore, the sugar would sit in her blood for longer after every single meal. Her pancreas was then working overtime every single day just to manage this. And a pancreas that's overworked long enough eventually just kind of burns out. And that's how you really get to diabetes, not from just eating too much sugar, but from not having enough muscle to deal with this. All that running that she was doing, cardio, yes, of course, it burns calorie, but it doesn't rebuild the sponge. It doesn't rebuild the muscle. And running on very low fuel consumption, like you're barely eating, you're breaking down even more muscle. So she's working super hard because she's really, really diligent and she's hyper disciplined, but she's basically just going backwards without even knowing this. So we just stopped the running entirely. She started lifting weights 3 times a week, squats, deadlift, rows, nothing fancy. Raise her protein levels, raise her total calories, included the rice that she grew up with because it's part of our culture. She's having noodles, and 6 months later, her A1c levels went down from 5.8 down to 5.2. Her LDL levels dropped 18 points. She's got about 14 pounds of fat completely gone, just tortured off her body. Then you know what happened? Her doctor, literally the same one that's been telling her to take statin, looked at the results and was like, whatever you're doing, just keep doing this. The reality is your body is not broken. It's just waiting for someone to give it the right instructions. And here's something I want you to sit with, okay? So by the time your doctor officially calls it diabetes, about 40 to 50% of your pancreatic function is already permanently gone. Michelle came to us at 5.8 A1c levels, and we were able to reverse this completely. Michelle was way more proactive, and that's why she's getting the results. She didn't want to wait for something bad to happen. Research from New England Journal of Medicine found that the window to protect your cardiovascular health closes within 6 years of menopause. What's truly reversible at 44 years old is now permanent at around 54 years old. That's a pretty scary statistic, and it's not meant to scare you. It's really just to tell you that the version of you who acts today has options that the version of you who waits simply will not have. Your 40s are actually the best time to do this. Your body is much more responsive now than it ever will be in the future. But that window is open right now, but it's not open forever. This is really your moment to really change all this. So point number 3 is eating less is making a lot of things a lot worse. So you saw the numbers and did the thing that made complete sense. You basically ate less, you cut out the carbs, got down to like 1,400 calories, cut all the rice, which honestly, I know it's like super painful. You add all those cardio and somehow the weight just like keeps piling back on. The belly fat just gets bigger and stuff. The numbers keep going up and you're more tired than you first started. Okay, so first off, it's not a willpower problem. Like you don't have to like willpower or discipline your way through this, brute force your way through this. It's like, cramming for SAT scores and anything like that. You just like procrastinate, then you have to study right before the exam and you stay up all night to study. It's definitely not like this, not a willpower thing. This is really just your biology doing exactly what it's designed to do. So one of our clients, her name is Karen. She's 43 and she's a senior tech director. She was basically eating 1,300 calories a day for about 2 years. She's doing spin class maybe 5 times a week. And she came to us and she's like 4 pounds heavier than when she first started, doing all her stuff. When we first met her, she had this look on her face that we've seen like so many times, but it's almost like this equal parts furious, angry, but also like kind of defeated. And the reason why is because she had like 3 different trainers tell her to cut out rice completely. And she really tried. She'd white knuckle for a few weeks. She'd feel pretty proud, but at the same time, super miserable at the same time. And then she would have some sort of event. Maybe it's like Chinese New Year, Lunar New Year. It would come around, her mom's kitchen, her whole family's at the table. And she had all the foods that she grew up with. And she would do what any normal person would do. She would eat it, and then she would feel really guilty afterwards, like she failed her diet. She felt like she failed, like honestly, because she just wasn't able to adhere to her plan. So what she would do is she would eat more. Then the guilt would spiral. Then she'd just give up until next Monday, and then the whole thing would start again. So here's what's actually going on, okay? When you cut out calories for that hard, for that long, your body doesn't just burn fat, it burns muscle too. And because muscle is very expensive to keep, like your body requires a lot of energy to store it, when your body thinks it's in a famine, it gets rid of it to try to survive. So it's kind of like a company cutting costs by laying off their best people. You might save money today, but tomorrow is going to be an absolute disaster. Every spin class on not enough food is doing the exact same thing to your muscle tissue. Cutting out the rice, cutting out the foods that feel like home. Your body reads all that restriction and guilt as stress. And stress floods your nervous system with cortisol, and cortisol tells your body to store more fat in your belly around your organs. So not only will the restriction make you way more miserable, it is literally sending fat to the exact places that you're trying to avoid. And what's going to happen is you're going to keep fighting your nervous system every single day. And you're just not going to stand a chance because it's too restrictive. All we did, guys, was we raised her calories. She's eating close to 2,000 calories a day. And she genuinely thought we're just setting herself up to fail. That's what she told us. She's like, what? Like, why am I eating so much food? We also cut out her cardio. And then we just added strength training 3 times a week. We cut the rice. So think about it like that. She was just like, oh my gosh, like this is completely opposite. And she was actually nervous. It makes a lot of sense because she's super restrictive. She was worried that all her gains would just be completely lost. But 4 weeks in, guys, her energy started coming back. Like it actually came back. She wakes up first thing in the morning and she's like, wow, like I actually feel like I'm alive today. I feel pretty good. She even texted us and was like, I forgot what it feels like to wake up and not feel exhausted. 8 weeks in, the scale started to move in the right direction. Not because she was eating less, but because her body finally had what it needed. Energy, food. You never had to choose between your health or your culture. Someone just gave you the wrong information and the wrong system. So here's the real picture. Cholesterol high means your muscle mass is going to be quite low. If your A1c is climbing, your muscle mass is going to be low, your energy is going to be completely gone, which just means that every single piece of advice that you've been following for years was built on a shrink you, not build you model. The woman that we work with who actually wants to turn this around and create something super sustainable, they're not looking for the extremes. They're eating way more food than they've ever eaten in years. They're lifting weights not to try to be super skinny, but they're trying to get stronger. They're keeping the foods that truly matter to them. And 6 months later, guys, they're sitting in their doctor's office watching their doctor's face change when they actually see the results. You are not broken and you are not too far gone. Your body is just waiting to respond. It just needs the right signal. You're in your 40s window. What you do here shapes what's going to happen in your 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, 100, 120. Your heart, your blood sugar, your brain, your energy, just to show up for the people that you love. Take action, guys. Change your life today. It is not too late. It is not too late for you to change this. I believe in you guys. If you like some support on how we can help you do this, link in the bio, book a free call with one of our coaches. We're going to look at your actual numbers, your actual life, and build something that actually works for you. And if this resonates, make sure you hit that like and subscribe button. My next video here is really the one that you don't want to miss, where I actually break down why Asian women gain weight even when they're eating clean. I'm going to show you exactly why that happens, and it has nothing to do with what you're actually eating. It has everything to do with what you're not building. Talk to you guys soon. Have a great day.